Now from WATN, it's Local 24 This Week with Richard Ransom.
Welcome to Local 24 This Week. We gather here every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. and again at 10:35 p.m. to bring you the real story behind the big stories. But we only have 30 minutes to do it, and the time always seems to fly by. So let's get right to today's topics. Voter angst. The Iowa caucus debacle has some wondering if maybe the Shelby County Election Commission needs to reevaluate plans for buying new voting machines. I'll get my panel's take on that. The issue of residency requirements rearing its ugly head again this week. The police director hinting that he would be open to relaxing officer dress codes if it means hiring more recruits. Showing his impatience with a certain county commissioner over that controversy. And the state of education, the Tennessee governor's school voucher plan drawing lawsuits in a week when the governor announces hundreds of millions of new funding for public education. I'll also be going one-on-one with Rashawn Austin, who's on the front lines of fighting the hunger problem in Memphis, one meal at a time. But first, my panel has political consultant Tawan Stout-Mitchell, another political consultant Susan Adler-Thorpe with Thorpe Communications, and Local 24 political analyst Oda Sanford. Thanks all three of you for being here today.
Thank you.
Always appreciate it. Let's talk about these voting machines first. You know, Shelby County needs to buy some new ones. They're old, they're antiquated, and the Election Commission, or administrator, I should say, Linda Phillips, is all about these touch panel machines that she can get at a lower cost than the paper ballot machines that a lot of voting advocates and those who are extremely concerned about election security seem to want. She says there is a paper trail with these touch screens, but they're not paper ballots per se. Otis, what's your take on what's the best move here? Because after Iowa, it does make you wonder.
Well, it does, and actually that lower cost is more long-term than it is right away. I think it's actually more expensive at the beginning, and I think what she's saying it'll cost a lot more if we don't have the touch screen later on.
To store all the ballots, all the paper.
To do all of that. You know, our society has gotten used to touch screens. That's just a fact. We use touch screens on our cell phones. Now we use touch screens in our cars, on our iPads. So I don't think anybody would be absolutely repulsed by touch screens. So I don't really know where this stands, but certainly Iowa has given all of us a wake-up call here about making sure that our elections are done accurately, fairly, and certainly competently. So this is just a debate that's just going to continue to go on, but the touch screen seems to be fine with me.
County Commission, a committee recommended that the Election Commission buy the paper ballot machines in lieu of the fact that 35 states, that's the way they do it, even the city of Chattanooga, that they use the paper ballots, and led by U of M law professor Steve Mulroy, Carol Chumney, and others, they feel when it comes to election security, you can't skimp on this.
Well, I don't think you should. I've all long been an advocate of the right and the people to vote and the security of voting on this show. I don't think you should skimp on money when it comes to our right to vote. But I'm kind of with Otis. I'm a little bit on the fence on this. I mean, we are a nation that we're in the infancy, of course, of electronics and whatever it changes so rapidly. But people are used to touch screens. If there is a reasonable paper backup, I can understand that. When we think of paper ballots, we think of taking a pen and a pencil, and what's the security there too? I mean, when you look at Iowa and it was controlled with an app, it was a big disaster. And then you say, well, we don't want, if we use electronics, someone can hack it. I mean, what could be more apparent who voted how in Iowa when you go to the side of a room and you stand up and you sit down and somebody counts you and everybody knows how you're voting. So I really don't understand all of the controversy about it, but as long as we have a system that is, if it's electronic, it's going to be breached. And if it's paper ballots, we're going to have some kind of problem with that too. So we have to leave it up to the experts. I kind of wish the county commission would stay out of it, even though they have to vote to fund it, and let the people who've been appointed to these positions make the decision.
Tawan, what are your feelings about this?
I don't think there is too high of a cost to pay for democracy, number one. And number two, and that we do want to encourage people to vote. And yeah, we know how to touch pad, but before there was a touch pad, there was a pencil and paper. I'm for anything that can verify and certify a vote. Now, whether it's touchpad or whether it's pen and paper, I do not care. What I care is there is a paper trail. So people can, I even like the idea of walking out with a receipt that I voted, here's how I voted. So if I had to show up and count my vote, I could do that. But I think I just won't, I guess I lean to the side of the commission. And I understand the commission being concerned about this because they are not appointed, they are elected by citizens to spend the money for the most reliable system.
You're talking about the county commission as opposed to election. Right.
As opposed to the county commission. So people are going to hold them directly responsible. They can't hold the election commission responsible.
Well, yeah, they can.
Well, they can.
It's our election commission. They make the
election commission members are appointed by the state and state legislators. They can't hold them directly accountable. They can hold the county commissioners directly accountable. Yeah, okay. And they're spending the money.
Yeah.
Well, it's not just local tax money that's involved. It's a lot of tax money that's involved. But, you know, maybe, I mean, it just seems odd to me that we're in an age of electronics and we're going to use a pencil and a piece of paper or a punch.
But if it's good for 35 states, I mean...
Well, just, well, you know, 10 million cows eat grass. Does that mean we got to eat it too?
Well, I still have a rotary dial in my house, so...
Oh, okay. Well, you're really dating yourself tomorrow.
What's new is old.
Well, why don't we go to just punch cards and the hanging chad system again? I mean,
well,
we
that's
know
the
how
fear
accurate
of going to the
that
paper
is.
system is you raise all kinds of problems with human error by doing that. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the issue of residency requirements, as I mentioned earlier, rearing its ugly head again this week. And we're also going to talk about the state of education. We'll be right back.
Embarrassed to smile? Cover your mouth in public? Afraid to go out to eat? You don't have to live that way. Dental implants can help. Call today or visit our website for your free dental consultation.
Has the insurance company offered you a ridiculous settlement for your car wreck injury? Just say no.
It's easy with Montesi.
It was a bad car wreck. My leg was broken, and I was out of work for 3 months. I called Mike Montesi. Mike came out swinging and got me respect fast.
It's easy with Montesi.
He got me money for my medical bills, lost wages, for my pain and suffering, and car repairs. Montesi got me way more than what I expected, and without the hassle of going to court.
Call 526-2126.
Okay, network inspection.
Okay.
Connected to Wi-Fi, protected from threats. Thermostat, connected, protected. Speaker, space vacuum. Connected, protected. This is not connected or protected.
But that's a family heirloom.
And it's a family security breach. It's gotta go.
With Xfinity XFi, if it's connected, it's protected.
Pull the truck around.
Simple, easy, awesome. Switch to Xfinity Internet for $20 a month for 12 months and get advanced security for free when you get the XFi Gateway. Click, call, or visit a store today.
Afraid to go out to eat? You don't have to live that way. Dental implants can help. Call today or visit our website for your free dental consultation.
ABC tonight is Hollywood's biggest night. A-list celebrities and rising stars will take to the stage for the 92nd annual Oscars. Nominees include Joaquin Phoenix, Scarlett Johansson, Tom Hanks, Margot Robbie, Brad Pitt, and Charlize Theron. And for Best Picture, The Irishman, Little Women, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Joker. Don't miss this memorable live television event. Tonight at 7, only on ABC. Then watch Katina Rankin and Richard Ransom after the Oscars on Local 24 News at 10.
You're watching Local 24 this week with Richard Ransom.
It always seems to be a hot topic every couple of years, and that's the issue of residency requirements. Where do we, or do we, force police officers, firefighters who work for Memphis taxpayers? Do we force them to live in the city of Memphis, or at least Shelby County? And right now, the police director and the sheriff want that border, shall we say, relaxed to include a 50-mile radius beyond the city of Memphis and Shelby County, meeting some opposition both on city council and on the county commission. Director Mike Rawlings, one of the most vocal advocates, and he had a tough week he did this week concede that he would be open to relaxing the dress code for officers if that would help recruit more cops, and that would mean allowing them to have beards, would allow them to have tattoos, which right now they do not allow. I don't think any of us disagree with that. Is there anyone who wants to speak up on that issue? Okay.
Yeah, I don't. No.
But then there was this other issue that came up when Commissioner Tammy Sawyer questioned all the politics that's being made out of this larger issue. Thinks that politics should stay out of it, and even though she is against relaxing the residency requirements by any form, Director Rawlings brought up the fact that, well, my boss, Jim Strickland, won by 63% of the vote, as I recall. 67. And you won 7% of the vote, so you really don't know what you're talking about when it comes to all of this. So it got, you know, it's just always a highly political issue. Right now, there's supposed to be a referendum for city voters to decide how they feel about this in November. The county wants the same thing to happen in August. Where do you fall on this, Tawan? Just let the voters decide and be done with it?
As far as I'm concerned, the voters decided. They decided a few years ago that you had to live within Shelby County. Somebody didn't like their decision, so they want to bring it back again.
Isn't how it works? I mean...
Well, at some point, you need to be satisfied with what your voters said. And your voters said you can live within Shelby County. Now, if you bring it back again and the voters say the same thing again to you, who's to say there should be some provision to say you can't bring this back for 5 years? Because this is ridiculous. Every 3 or 4 years, we talk about the same thing. And as far as Commissioner Sawyer, I do wish she would have communicated her concerns with members of the City Council and work within the group and lobby that issue, whatever side she's on. And I wish the director would stay out of politics and focus on administration, because he was out of order giving a political answer to a political sitting commissioner rather than staying focused on the policy and why the policy is good. So I think there's a lot of wrong in here on both sides.
Well, there's a lot of emotion, and I think why they want to revisit it is they're having a lot of trouble recruiting new cops. And Jim Strickland says we've got to hire a couple hundred more at least if we want to get back up to the contingency that he thinks will start to make a real dent in crime.
Well, in a perfect world, we would recruit all of our policemen and law enforcement officers from Memphis and Shelby County that would live here and patrol here.
And I'm good with that.
But if they're finding that the pool is not large enough, if the interest in being a law enforcement officer or the ability to be a law enforcement officer, if the pool isn't big enough and they want to go out to surrounding counties, I don't see anything wrong with it, but I think it has to go back to the people. If the people voted that everybody who's employed by the city has to be a resident of the city or Shelby County, then that's the way the law is. If the administration wants to broaden that, then I don't think they should circumvent the vote of the people. They should go ahead and take it back to the people and put on a good enough campaign to persuade the people that this is the right way to go.
What's your take, Otis?
Yeah, very briefly. We've debated this before, and I think Susan and I have had a little disagreement on this. I've always said I do think it's important to have police officers patrolling the city who know something about this city.
I do too.
So I didn't necessarily want somebody coming all the way from Marktree, Arkansas, or Winona, Mississippi to do that. Well, they have narrowed that. The fact is, yes, the voters have already spoken on this, but the last city council did approve a referendum going on the ballot. So that's where we stand right now, and let's just keep it as that. Voters have been asked more than once to vote on other issues, so let them vote on the issue again in November, I think. And we do need to keep the politics out of this. I think Commissioner Sawyer was a little out of place on this, and Director Rawlings didn't need to bring in a sort of a thumb in your face on this by saying, my boss got 67% and you got nothing, so shut up. I just don't think that's right either.
All right, so another issue where there was no vote at all is the issue of school vouchers, and that's part of the reason why Shelby County and Davidson County are suing the state over the school voucher program, saying you're kind of inflicting this on us. They think there might be a constitutional argument here and wonder why the state feels compelled to only, push this particular program on these 2 counties. Granted, the failing schools are in those 2 counties predominantly. But now it's litigation, and now there's cross-litigation on this, Otis.
Yeah, it is. And of course, with all due respect to our guest on the show every now and then, Ken Whalum, I've said before that I thought that the voucher bill was half-baked from the beginning. The only reason it got passed was that they had to narrow it down to Shelby and Davidson. So I don't blame Shelby County, Davidson County, and the school boards for fighting this. This thing is fraught with problems, and now the courts are going to have to work it out. I think it was ill-conceived from the start.
Well, in the State of the State address, not only does Governor Bill Lee want to give $40 million more to school vouchers, but Susan, we have like a $406 million surplus, and you got to give Governor Lee credit because most of that money he wants to put toward education in some form. Breaking it down for you, we have a graphic, $117 million, which should come close to a 4% teacher salary increase across the board. $250 million that would be spent on service for kids with behavioral issues, which we know that the superintendent of Shelby County says is a big issue, and he'd like more money for that. Childhood literacy, making sure that 3rd graders can read at the 3rd grade level, also a huge issue, $70 million for that. And a grant for technical schools of $25 million. Governor putting his money where his mouth is, I guess, when it comes to education.
Right, and I prefer to see that 4% pay raise increase for teachers, even a higher increase for teachers who are willing to go into the inner cities in these 2 counties where there are failing schools and help to prop up the education system there. But there are also private funds throughout in Memphis that if you want your child to go to a private school, you can apply for these private funds. They're private funds with deep pockets. And many of these private schools, if your child certainly qualifies, will offer scholarships combined with private funds. But there's no voucher and no private fund that will give a child a full ride to these private schools. The parents have to put in something too. So I'm really lukewarm on the voucher system. I see a reason for it, a need for it. On the other hand, public education is the foundation of our democracy, and it has made us unique in this world. And I think the more money and effort that the governor pours into public education here, the better off we are.
The final word.
Final word. As a former school board member, I really believe vouchers are okay, but vouchers will take money from public education.
Federal money.
Wait a minute. Nobody's talking about operational money. And when children leave public schools, there is a gap. Because you had 22 children and now you have 20 in that classroom, it still costs the same, but they lost the money for 2 students. I think if you're going to talk voucher, you need to be talking about new money for operations of schools per student, because public schools will lose money.
And a lot of those schools are already pretty empty as it is. They are not hardly at capacity, a lot of them. All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks, all 3 of you, for being here today. We appreciate it. When we come back, by one-on-one segment, we're going to talk about food deserts. It's a big issue that we'll be talking a lot about here on Local 24 right after this.
Call 526-2126.
America has an education problem. The old system isn't working anymore. 35 million Americans have put their college education on hold. Who's going to do something about it? We are. Strayer University wants you to graduate. 90% of transfer students say Strayer was the right choice for finishing their degree.
If you receive Medicare and Medicaid or have low income, you can still get an affordable Cigna Medicare Advantage plan and get treated like more than just a number, because Cigna treats you like a whole person, body and mind. Get the right plan for the right price. Call 1-866-623-5971. With Cigna, you get one plan for medical and prescription drug coverage, a team of doctors for your overall health, vision care with an eyewear allowance, and dental coverage. plus monthly premiums and specialist copays as low as $0. Cigna has a plan for you, no matter your health status or budget. Don't wait. Call now to get your free Medicare Advantage guide. Call 1-866-623-5971. That's 1-866-623-5971. Or visit ChooseCignaMedicare.com. Cigna, together all the way.
Jessica, we need to leave right now.
I need to get something.
There's a meaning no one knows. Wait until we set free.
So what's the empty suitcase for?
The grand prize trophy. Confidence. Pass it on.
I was born to be somebody.
Local 24 Sports. Nobody covers your team like our team. You're watching Local 24 This Week with Richard Ransom.
Food deserts. You've heard us talk about the issue in the past, and a lot of you say, well, what in the heck are food deserts? Last time I checked, there's a grocery store on every corner. Well, that actually is not the case, especially in the city of Memphis, which was recently labeled the hunger capital of the United States, and for good reason. Rashawn Austin with The Works Incorporated is a nonprofit in town that is very committed to this issue and helping to resolve this issue, and we're going to talk with you again on Monday. Local 24 News at 6 is completely committed to this topic. And we found there are many places in town where the closest grocery store, then I'm talking full service, not the mom and pop corner operation, where you can get full produce, that's a 2.5-mile walk for anyone. And when you've got 1/3 of your population, as you do in some of these neighborhoods, that don't have transportation, what are you supposed to do then?
Yeah.
And so what you're trying to do is start and have started, a farmer's market and grocery, at least in near your office in South Memphis, where people can take classes, find out what produce is. In a lot of cases, they don't know.
That's right.
Because they're not exposed to it, and learn healthy ways to cook and make the most out of a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
How's it going?
It's going fine, I guess.
You said the classes are full, right?
The classes are full. Our store, we have frequent shoppers. We've been in operation for the last 6 years, and our small grocer, but of course people need a full service grocer to get everything they need to feed their families. We have a store that's about 2,000 square feet. And so certainly, and neighbors can walk to that store and carry the goods home. But you have to think about families that have individuals with mobility issues. Maybe a walk is just not something that they can do.
Well, even if you're perfectly healthy.
Even if you're perfectly healthy.
2.5-mile walk to get your groceries is asking a lot.
And with something in your arms.
Right,
you know,
right. So you would like to see the bus system get better, and there's a big push to improve MATA that would make it not a 1-hour commute just to get to that grocery store that's not that far away. Where do you think we're making the most progress right now in terms of trying to eliminate this huge segment of our population that is, what's the term?
Insecure.
Food insecure.
Yeah. And so we're trying some things differently in Memphis to address our hunger issue and our issue with access to healthy food. Our grocer is just a pilot of that, where we're able to get food in a corner store size store at the cost of a full service grocery store, low cost grocery. We have a relationship with an independent grocer who allows us to use his relationship for buying things at wholesale. And so we're able to provide dry goods and cleaning products and produce to customers at that same price they can get if they went to their local Cat Saver or Kroger store.
Do you find that once you expose people to the benefits of produce and cooking with produce and the healthy lifestyle that creates, that they're amenable to it? Or do you fight, you know, if you're mostly exposed to processed food, junk food, sodas, candy, and the like, those stuff all tastes pretty good. It's kind of hard to break the habit, yes?
So we have to bust some myths around produce, you know. One is in terms of cost. When we think organic or fresh things, they're more expensive. Especially if you're having to buy them from a corner store who is source them at a retail cost and have to sell them at a higher retail cost. And they infrequently have produce because they can't really afford the waste that comes with produce, the food waste. So in our cooking education, we use an evidence-based cooking curriculum out of DC called Cooking Matters. We found in terms of our survey results that people are very amenable to cooking things differently or cooking things they don't normally cook. So if we provide them access to squash and teach them another way of cooking it other than frying, they are amenable, and they are doing that because they're getting results. And so they're losing weight, or they are able to be more compliant on their medication. Because there's a larger issue. People think about hunger and they think, oh, the South is an obesity capital. But we have some source of food, but it's not what we call real food.
Right, so that's where we have higher instances of hypertension, diabetes, even tooth decay. I mean, it runs the gamut as a result of our eating decisions. Yeah. What do we do to magnify what you're doing times 20, times 30, where all the areas that don't have full-service groceries, and you're very frank about the fact that you don't expect grocery stores to suddenly have a change of heart and change their business model and relocate in neighborhoods that are where every other home is vacant and there's just not a lot of population or income. So what do we do?
No retailer can survive in a sparsely populated area. They're looking for rooftops. And so what do? We innovate. So we create relationships with other corner stores who are now just selling processed foods, chips, and snack foods because that's what they can afford to sell. How do we get them a relationship where they're able to source produce? Then we, you know, of course, we're a housing developer also, and so we put infrastructure back into neighborhoods that are distressed and disinvested, and we put housing back, and we bring people back.
And as you're in favor of these efforts to push MATA to be bigger and better than what it is.
Definitely transportation, because a lot of times people define food deserts, they just think about the absence of a grocery store. It is also the absence of transportation for a large majority of the residents.
That'll leave it there, but thank God Memphis has you, and for all the good work you do. We'll take a break. We'll be right back right after this.
If you or a loved one has mesothelioma or any other asbestos-related cancer, call now. Asbestos manufacturers sold deadly asbestos materials to thousands of companies, putting workers at risk. An estimated $30 billion in court-ordered trusts have been set aside to pay out claims to asbestos victims. You may be entitled to a portion of these funds and receive compensation without filing a lawsuit or ever going to court.
For your free legal consultation, call 1-800-568-5308. That's 1-800-568-5308. I'm a non-attorney spokesperson.
Many seniors are paying way too much for their car insurance, and they don't even know they could pay less. If your insurance company keeps raising your rates, if your insurance company tells you that because of your age you can't get a lower premium, well, maybe it's time to speak with another insurance company.
You might save a little, you might save a lot.
Maybe hundreds of dollars a year.
Seniors can save money on their car insurance.
You might save 5% a year, maybe 10%, 15%, or even more. That could add up to several $100s a year.
How much will you save?
You may be able to save a lot of money.
So call right now and find out just how much money you might be able to save.
Come on, call now.
1-800-780-3074. 1-800-780-3074. 1-800-780-3074.
After the Civil War, millions of African Americans were without health care.
There was a need for black physicians, black healthcare providers, like dentists.
The solution?
Schools were being open to educate black people so that we could go back and treat our communities.
19 black medical schools opened between 1868 and today, but only 4 remain. Local 24 reporter Brittany Moncrief takes an in-depth look into forgotten figures of the Mid-South. Wednesday on Local 24 News at 6.
The email to weigh in on today's show is rransom@localmemphis.com, rransom@localmemphis.com. My thanks to my guests, and my thanks to you at home for watching. We'll see you next week for Local 24 This Week.